Hey Tim, look at this.
Needs work.
Hey Tim, how about this?
Still needs work.
Darn it. How about this?
Nice, high five.
Hey there everybody, how's it going?
My name's Tim.
My name's Michael.
And you're watching the TMI show.
That's the Tim and Michael Information Show. And today we are talking about what are you doing? I'm not talking about the improv game.
I'm here on the couch with you.
And so am I. So am I. Can't do the same thing. You're out of there. For anybody who watches comedy sports out there. So I actually just ran into this earlier today, but I've ran into it a million times, especially when you're going to college and school after high school or wherever it is. I ran into somebody who just said that they switched their major because they didn't know what they wanted to do with their life yet. And I had talked to another good friend of mine, Sandy, the other day, who goes by Jill of all trades, and she says that's just my fancy way of saying I don't know what I want to do with my life. And I said, but then my whole mantra is Jack of all trades, master to some. That's my kind of thing about it. But I think what I wanted to talk about is how I've run into so many people and how I've even been there about not knowing exactly what I wanted to do with my life. And I think when you're in high school, you kind of think, oh, I'm going to go straight to my 4-year as soon as I graduate, or at least, some of us have these ambitions. And that for me, well, no, for me, I remember when I was in high school, I actually joined an architect and engineering academy when I was in high school because I thought I wanted to be an architect. And they offered it at school. But then somewhere during my senior year, I realized I don't want to be an architect. So I had this whole idea that I was going to go to Cal Poly, Pomona, and because I went to San Luis Obispo.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he has a degree in architecture, and
of all things,
and then how I said, oh well, maybe I don't want to do that, and then I found the Art Institute because one of their recruiters came to the school, and how I really wanted to go to the Art Institute, and then I went for an interview, and of course they loved me, and they thought that it was going to be awesome, but then I realized I didn't have 10 grand, and so things changed, and then all of a sudden I didn't go to school when I graduated, and then I just started working, and then it wasn't until I was working for a bit that I started going back to school, and then I went to a junior college, and I was like, okay,
and here we are.
Yeah, and then I'm like, well, I want to do this, and I want to do that.
And that's when Michael found his life calling, and here we are on this couch for the rest of our lives talking to you.
This is what I wanted to do with my life. You too.
As did I.
And but it is still a struggle because even when I started acting, at school, which by the way, Fullerton College has an amazing process. When you want to take an acting class, they make sure you take a tech theater class because everybody just wants, oh, what are we acting? But you need to know some sort of technical thing. Yeah, and I think that's why I really ended up loving directing because I learned how to do everything. Costuming, lighting, set design, painting. Just I wanted to know the whole stuff. So I mean, finding my path to directing was a very, very long path. And as far as the art world, what I wanted to do there, it took me a while before I even thought, wow, storyboarding. And I mean, this is how many years it's taken. But again, these classes didn't exist when I started going to the school. So
it's all a process. It really is.
It is. I don't know what your process, if you knew exactly what you wanted to do, when
I figured out exactly what I wanted to do about, let's see, 3 years ago, if that. I kind of went through phases myself. So, if you want to hear my story,
yeah, please.
You shared a bit of yours. So, in high school, I had an idea of what I wanted to do. I thought, Pixar's cool, computer animation is cool. I'll take some computer animation courses. I took some Saturday computer animation courses at the local community college. And after 2 semesters, realized I did not want to spend that much time sitting in front of a computer. How things have changed. But so I kind of wrote off computer animation. In the process, I found film editing. I thought, well, maybe I'll do film. So this was right before I was going to Biola University to get my 4-year undergrad, and I signed up for the film program. Spent my whole time there. Kind of had I don't want to say a love-hate relationship with the film program, but I was like an on-again, off-again film student. Sometimes I liked it, sometimes I didn't like it as much, but I was never really on fire for it. There was kind of early on, there was sort of a turning point my freshman year, I was actually offered an internship with an editing company. And it was between this and working at Disneyland, because Disneyland was just down the road, and I had always loved Disneyland and was really up for theme parks. And I'm kind of like, well, gosh, which one do I want to do? And I mean, the obvious choice for film students seemed like the editing internship, but as Michael knows, I turned it down and went to Disneyland. So that was I kind of wonder what would have happened if I'd gone the other route. I might be quite successful in the film world right now, but I wouldn't be doing this.
Oh, well, thanks.
Yeah, but what ended up happening was my last semester at Biola, I did the Disney College program. Here I am at a film school. I don't really know what I want to do with film. I'm pretty sure at this point I don't want to do film, which is good because I don't really know what I would do in the film industry anyway. I'm doing the Disney College program, which is sort of an internship that Disney offers where you work in the park and they offer professional type classes that help you become a better professional. All I really know at this point is I don't really want to do film, but I've really enjoyed Disneyland, so I want to stick with Disney and do something for the theme parks. No idea what. Until finally one class, the instructor calls me out and says, Tim, what do you want to do for your career? And I said, I want to be an environment designer for Walt Disney Imagineering and design theme parks. And I spent the rest of the class explaining to people I met, I'm going to be an environment designer, do concept art and stuff. I have to go learn how to draw now. Bye. So it's kind of been this, that was, again, 3 years ago now, and I've been working closer and closer and closer to that ever since, and just evolving what I've wanted to do. So it's been a process.
I think it's okay for you to not know at any point what you're going to do. And the thing is, I feel like nowadays there's such a lot of pressure that happens, especially with media and social media being what it is.
Oh, yeah.
Because when you're young, you're ambitious, whether you know it or not. You have these ideas, you have these dreams, and you think you know everything. And then you always get to a point where you're like, now I know everything. But then 5 years later, you're like looking back at what you thought you knew, and you're like, I didn't know anything.
You never know everything. You just realize more and more how little and little you do know.
Yeah.
You know less and less as you go on and learn more and more.
And I think there are these what we're looking at are figures that you may not even be realizing it. Like, let's just say Lorde, the singer. She's like 16, 17 or something like that, and like she just won a Grammy.
Yeah.
And I forget how old, who's the guy who created Facebook?
Mark Zuckerberg. Yeah.
He's
like my age.
Yeah, and so you're like, oh gosh, or even someone like, Lady Gaga, who you're like, gosh, she's 20, however, and she's doing all this, and
yeah.
I think it's
Matt
one
Smith,
thing,
Doctor Who, he's a few years older than me.
Youngest Doctor, and I think he's only a year older than me.
Yeah.
So
he's one of the most popular doctors ever. And he started acting when he was in his 20s. It's not like he's been doing it for forever.
I think we have all of these things around, especially if you're into the arts, where you look at people and you're like, God, like they've got it made or whatever it is. But that's also a two-way street. And what I wanted to talk about is you can't go down that line because half of us who go like, gosh, they've got it made. Half of us are just don't have what it takes because let's face it, like you've got to put down the Xbox controller and like work your butt off auditioning in Hollywood. There's some people that have not realized what it takes to like
right.
even work and do it in that industry. Sometimes you do get lucky, sometimes you do, but then there's the other people that do. The other half of us that just really want to work at it. So. And as far as you were talking about working in Disneyland, you brought up another point in my head. Along the way, while we're trying to be adults or whatever it is, I forgot what Mark called it. He said that he had an acronym for what the bare essentials are. Home, food, and just the things that you need.
Sure.
And I should ask him again and plug it on the show. But there are certain basic essentials that you do need to take care of in your life. You need to be realistic about the environment that you live in, and whatever you do for work. If you get to work at a theme park, or if you are working, some retail, whatever it is, you do need to take care of yourself first. When I started going to school, I've never taken out any loans. I used all my money that I've been working, and then so So that's me. That's what I decided to do. But I also wanted to take care of other stuff, you know. Some of us aren't that fortunate. I know my friend Elizabeth just said, you know, her parents said if you want to come and move back home and you just want to focus on school, you know, and pursuing your acting because she's older and she said I just found this. Some of us have different situations than the other person, and so I know that that'll have a lot to do with what you feel you can or can't do. Sometimes you say, well, I don't have the luxury of being able to find a new, you know, thing in school because, you know, I can't do this, I can't do that, I can't do this. But I'm willing to say, and I don't know if you agree with this, I'm willing to say that as an artist, we always make excuses when we're afraid of failing. And so Phil was talking to us about this. He says, like, you know, we'll always put something off. You know, the artist trap. When you say, like, you know, oh, I'll do it next week. I'll do it next week. I'll do it whatever. So we will always make an excuse when you're afraid, because nobody wants to fail. If you feel horrible when you do. So you'll always make these excuses for why you can't do something. I would venture to say that as hard as it may seem, you can never not break out of whatever is holding you back. If you need to move to Alaska to get away from whatever it is, which my friend did, you know?
Really? Okay.
Well, yeah, you know, he's up in Alaska now. So, but whatever it is, I think you could break away from it. Mm-hmm. But that's me. I may not have a situation as hard as some other people where they're not allowed to say, I'm going to switch my major or my thought process for my degree now. So I don't know if you agree with that. If you think are we just stuck, or just some situations going to always be that way, or
maybe? I mean, I'm still trying to drive with the conversation here. I mean, everybody's situation is different, and some people will have it easier than others, for sure. I think that's what you're trying to say.
Yeah.
You know, I think it's a friend of mine. I was just talking to a friend of mine and asked him if he was drawing much, because he's also an artist and he works with me. He's like, no, I've been kind of taking a break. And my first thought is, well, gosh, you always need to be drawing. Why would you take a break? And then he told me about how he really wanted to take a break because when he's in school, he's drawing for about 10 to 12 hours a day, 5 days a week. And I'm like, I could never do that. Like, if I did that, I would literally not be sleeping because I work full time.
Yeah.
I mean, I average about 12 hours a week, period. Not 12 hours a day. That just does not happen in my life. And, you know, golly, I wish I had that situation. I wish I could get that good that fast. But you know what? That doesn't mean I can't be successful. Mm-hmm. You know, everyone's situation is different and everyone's story is different. I think a good way to give this some perspective and perhaps to ground this conversation is to relay some stories I saw of some of the Disney animators back when I was at CTN back in November. You guys should go. It's really great. So I come from a background where, you know, I only started drawing a couple years ago, and it's really easy for me to think, well, gosh, it's too late in life for me. I started way too late. I will never be good enough at this to do it professionally. I should have started when I was 4. Because you hear about a lot of professionals who do it professionally. They started when they were 4 or 5, and they've been drawing ever since. And so when I saw these Disney animators doing their little discussion panel at CTN, there were those animators who had been drawing their whole life, and then there were the animators who were like, oh gosh, I didn't really know how to draw or animate or do any of this until I showed up at Cal Arts or the Art Institute, and I just kind of picked it up, and they're still doing it professionally. Some people start early in life, and some people start at our age, at the same age I started, and there have been success stories in both cases. So, you know, starting as late as we do or having as little time as I do or you do does not mean you cannot do it. It's not about what you don't have, it's about what you do have and what you do put in. I think that's a succinct way to
very nice,
this conversation up in a little ball, yeah.
So, you know, and again, maybe talking about it hopefully has helped you guys too, because you're probably in similar situations. You may not know what you want to do with your career yet. I just say take care of some of those bare essentials, and you do have to make time. Mm-hmm. You always have to make time and give it the time that it really needs to figure it out. And once you have figured it out, give it the time to do whatever it is you're doing, to really feel if you love it or not. But don't stop trying, you know, because I'm sure there's even some some even in acting too.
Mm-hmm.
I always wonder if I'm going to be 60 years old and suddenly be a breakout star when it comes to like
There you are.
performing, because I look at how many actors and I'm like, you know, gosh, they didn't get that break until they were like, oh, and now they're playing the old guy in like, you know, this thing, but they're getting worse.
It took just that long, yeah.
So who knows, you know? It's okay if you don't know what you're doing, you know. Figure it out. Take your time to make the right decision, you know, because I couldn't imagine going with the so-so or wrong decision, you know.
Sure. Yeah, and just keep making decisions, right decisions, wrong decisions. If you make a lot of decisions, if you just keep making choices that favor what you're trying to do, favor your field, then eventually one of them will pay off, you know. If you keep putting yourself in places to have opportunities as an artist or as a musician or as a performer, eventually you will get somewhere. It only takes one.
Well, thank you so much for tuning in once again, and hoping you're figuring out what you're doing out there in life. And thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.
Just keep moving forward.
Hey guys, if you would like to leave a question or a comment for me or Michael, you can reach us at tmi.art.productions@gmail.com.
Next stop, Endor!